Welcome, everybody, to Mongols. This is our prediction episode where we are going to talk a little bit about what we expect when Oakland Roots come to Highmark Stadium to take on the Pittsburgh Riverhounds this weekend. I am Mike. Joining me for this one is Laura Ellen. Laura Ellen, how are things?
Things are going great. The temperature has dropped in central
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania, which is great. We had a lot of really hot days, and I think those hot days are coming back. But this morning, when I walked out of the house at 5:20 or whatever to go to the gym, it wasn't oppressively hot and humid. I do think the humidity has come back throughout the day, but yeah, it's we're good. It's summer. We get to watch soccer. Isn't that fun, right? We love our
Yeah.
soccer teams.
Yeah. Are you ready for the Premier League to start back up again?
I y Yes and no. I think having the Euro tournament and having the tournament here in the States has been a really nice kind of, especially because the Riverhounds and then we also follow the Philadelphia Union. Neither of them are doing super great at the moment, and so it's been nice to kind of have another set of tournaments
Yeah.
to watch, like another set of games to watch. And so even just watching a random, some country versus some other country game is really nice because it's nice. It's good to watch good soccer. So yeah, I think I'm looking forward to the Premier League. Although I have to say, I didn't even think about this until this moment, Mike. So the England Netherlands game,
Yeah.
I was cheering for England because I have like friends there. I guess I don't know if I have any friends who are from the Netherlands, but um so I was cheering for England, and also our keeper for Brighton and Hove Albion is the Netherlands starting keeper, the youngest Verbruggen. I can't even say his name. It's horrible. Youngest keeper ever to be in the tournament. So we were all really proud of him. But then when England scored, it was an incredible goal. And then they were like, Aston Villas. And I was like, son of a gun. I'm like, really? Because I was like, now Michael's not going to shut up about this, so we're going to have to listen to it anyway.
I wasn't even gonna bring it up, but yes, that was a quintessential Ollie Watkins goal. And listen, I'll just say this: in the Euros, Harry Kane has been given the preference, and I get it, but that is something that we see out of Ollie Watkins game in and game out. So, like, the fact that he's just kind of been sitting there on the bench, like, not really getting an opportunity, and then he took his opportunity, so it's great. It'll be interesting to see what they do with him for the final, if anything. Um, but it was a great moment. Yeah, for him, he is someone that I think personally, Laura Ellen, you would really like. Like if you actually
I'm
look at his
sure.
journey and like him as a person and like just in general, like just seems like a really good, keep your head down, hardworking dude. Doesn't like look for the spotlight or anything. So yeah, that was cool. Um, a couple of things I want to touch on before we actually talk about this game. First of all, the Hounds announced that there is going to be a white at for our next home game on July 20th. So not this weekend, but next weekend. I'm bringing it up now because there is merch that you can buy through the team that is all white. They've also announced that they will be unveiling their third kit at the game next week. So if you want to get the merch, you can order it now and it'll arrive in time for the game. But I'm curious, do you have any predictions for what this new kit might look like? Or is there anything in particular
Oh.
that you would like to see?
Uh I think, it's interesting because when the Mount Washington head situation picture came up, I don't know,
You're
can I can
the
you
the
call it
giveaway for this weekend,
the
yes,
giveaway
is
for this weekend, which,
yeah,
like, sure, totally get it. I think I and I think we've commented about this on the podcast over the past couple of seasons, and I especially think last season and this season, the front office of the Riverhounds has stepped it up.
yeah,
And this season, there is something at there's like something new and exciting at every single home match. They're really they're really going for it. And I love that.
mhm.
However, I'm like, we are terrible. How am I supposed to get excited about a kind of terrifying Mount Washington thing or like a new third kit when we are just so bad? And so it's like really hard, I'm on the email list, whatever. And so we get
Yeah,
these
yeah.
emails and they're like, yeah, we're so excited for this weekend. And I'm like, are you though? And so anyway, so from that perspective, there's a little bit of a disconnect because I am, I'm like, yes, I am excited for the Riverhounds, and we can talk about how my framing has shifted a bit about thinking
Okay.
about this season, and we can, help. But also, I'm like, we're really bad. Like we're not great. Like, and yet we're still doing all these fun things. So I
Yeah.
think for the third kit, I guess it's going to be white because we're doing a whiteout. I said in the Mongols Slack channel, I'm not a big Penn State fan. I grew up in central Pennsylvania, and so South Central Pennsylvania, and so everyone was Penn State fans. My high school, like we would do whiteouts for our basketball
Yeah.
games or whatever, because whatever. And I just like never really got behind it. It's not like, it doesn't make me happy. It doesn't bring me joy. So I'm kind of like, okay, whatever. We're not Penn State. Like it's not a thing, but I know other places do it. But so I think for the third kit, I guess it's going to be white. It would be kind of funny if it wasn't white, actually. I would
Agreed.
love to see. Going back to Premier League, Brighton has these like third kits that are these like fuchsia-y, orangey, like highlighter
Mhm.
color. I think something like that would be totally fun. Just kind of off
Yeah.
the wall goalkeeper kit from the, like 90s, early 2000s, right? Just like give me something crazy town. Like that would just be so fun. Uh, but then it would be kind of funny if you're like, and we're doing a whiteout and our third kits are not white, right? But
Right.
I guess we already have a kind of white ish kit. So I don't know. What are your predictions, Mike? What do you think it's going to look like?
I, you know, I think predictions is probably a strong word. I've said in the past that I would love to see the team partner with like a local artist to do something. They might have gotten some of that, homegrown love by putting the bridge on the home kit, but I would love to see something with some kind of a local artist. And I 1,000% am with you. I would love to see something that's like bright and fun and just completely different. You see some of these kits that other teams are putting out as their third kit, and they're totally just bonkers, crazy, good time. You know that it's not like a core part of your brand or who you are. It's just this other thing that people will think is fun, and it's a new way to introduce, other fans that may not just be into constant black and gold to your team and showing something cool that you're doing. So I would hope for something like that. I'm almost picturing like paint splatter. Like if you're gonna do like a whiteout, you know how they do those
Ooh,
runs where you like the color runs or like the color concerts where like you run and people like throw like the
yeah.
chalk and stuff. You could have a jersey that looks like it's just paint splatter, like bright colors or something. That could be cool. But
Oh, I don't know, like from a copyright whatever perspective, it'd be kind of cool to do. I'm just thinking like Pittsburgh, something like Andy Warhol or something
yeah,
like that. Like that would be kind of cool.
yeah,
But yeah, no, I agree. Something, yeah, just something like give me something bright, give me
yeah.
something unexpected, give me something that is just different, right? Because I think that's fun. And this raises a question. Did you or anyone in your family have you bought any kits from this season?
I no, we have not bought any kits from the season. I did buy the white hat just because I've been looking for a hat that has just like the inner crest, like the shield with the paw and the ball on it, and I don't have any white hats. And I was like, "Oh, that's kind of a cool looking hat, so I'll get that." But no, we have not bought any kits this season. Have you guys?
Speaking of no, speaking of well, that's not true. Maybe Justin bought one the last time we were out and I wasn't looking. Maybe. I don't think so. He will correct me if I'm wrong. Um no, speaking of hats, I just very randomly was trying to wear the Mongols hat and my hair is at a weird length that it looks weird if I wear a hat. And so that makes me sad. So maybe it's time to cut my hair. I don't know. Anyway, that's
Mm,
not about Mongols or the podcast or
Your
anything, but I do
your hair
love my
looks good.
Mongols hat. Thank you.
Yeah. Don't cut
Uh
it just for a hat. Yeah. You're good.
oh, anyway. Okay.
Don't.
Should
Don't.
we talk about this game or how we feel?
No.
Oh no, let's
I
talk
want to
about
I
Rob
would
Vincent.
Yeah, I want to talk about
Oh.
Rob real quick. So I
Oh,
talked to
and we
Rob.
have to talk about the women's team.
Yes, so we talked about
Okay.
Rob. I talked to Rob yesterday on our pre-gaming show. If you missed that, make sure that you go check it out. Rob is fantastic. Like I could talk to him for hours about things. The good thing is every time we schedule it, he always sort of has like a follow up meeting like right after. So I know we can't just like keep talking. But he's fantastic. Go listen to that show. He mentioned a couple things. First of all, we talked about the academy girls that were actually brought up this week that trained with the men's first team literally all week. The team made it sound like it was just one day. And Rob was like, no, they've been with us all week. And, we really got into all about the USLW team and how important that's going to be. And Rob, the feedback he gets from parents in the academy and just like how massive this is going to be. We've talked in the past sort of about the different name options, and I know that you have some thoughts. So where do you
I
land
always
on the
have thoughts.
name? You always
Yes,
have
I
thoughts.
I always have thoughts.
Yes.
That is one thing. Anyway, well, actually, I do want to talk about that, but I agree. I have loved. First of all, I've loved the kind of talking with the different folks from the Hounds. I've really enjoyed that. So thanks for doing that, Mike. And I
Mhm.
loved the conversation with Rob. Um, and and when he talked about the you know folks from the girls' academy coming and playing with the guys, I think that is so important. I remember when so I played goalkeeper in high school, and when way back in the day when I was in high school, the girls season was in the spring and the boys season was in the fall. And so I played fall ball, I played year round, right? So we played fall ball, we then played indoor, played in the spring and then we played in the summer leagues. But during the fall, I would often go and practice with the high school boys goalkeepers because goalkeeping is one of those things that it doesn't quite matter so much
Yeah.
about, kind of like gender or strength or like those kinds of things. But that was so helpful for my skill development to be able to play with the boys who tended to be more competitive, well, not more competitive. They express their competitiveness in a different way. Um
Mhm.
but that was really great. So when he shared that was just awesome. And I think those are great opportunities of finding ways to say, hey, we are increasing our level. We are saying that the Pittsburgh Riverhounds women's team, because we'll get into the names in a bit, right? But we are here to play, we are here to be competitive, and we're doing all we can to
Yeah.
demonstrate. And I think the girls academy teams have just historically done so well. So it would be great. And I know Rob mentioned this, but it'd be great to keep some of those players in the system and show them, like, hey, when you come home for the summer, we have a place for you.
Yeah.
Right. We have a place. And then hopefully we can get a women's professional team as well, which I think would be fantastic. Those were my thoughts about that. And then okay, so the I voted. I did vote. I think Justin showed the story. I voted for Confluence because I was like, oh, that like feels very Pittsburgh-esque, right? I feel like that's a word, that's a vocabulary word that
That's
people
a
in Pittsburgh
word.
know. It's a word, right? But it's something that like people in Pittsburgh know because we have the confluence of the rivers, whereas growing up I was like, what is a confluence? And then I came to Pittsburgh and it's like, oh, the confluence, right? That felt like
Yeah.
a very Pittsburgh word to me. And then after I voted, I was reflecting more about Riveters. Like Riveters to me, it's like very Steel Town, also harkens to Rosie the Riveter during World War II. So there's some like women power engaged in that. And I was like, okay, that's great. That also feels a little bit like an easy choice. Like that feels like the
Right.
easy answer. And then strikers, it was funny because I listened to the conversation that you had about strikers, and I honestly, my first thought was not even like the position striker. My
Mm.
first thought was, oh, Pittsburgh and Western PA, we are union towns, right? And so we go on
Sure.
strike. And if we don't like something, we're going to go on strike. And I have many friends who have worked in the labor industry for a long time, and who are parts of unions and things. And so I was like, oh, that feels very Pittsburgh-esque. But then when I listened to your conversation, you're like, oh, it's just like we're going back to the 90s. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of true as well. But anyway, so I did vote for Confluence. I do hope like the fan perspective has some input, but also to the prior conversation, I can totally see that it's just like, well, we've already decided, and it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter what others have to say. But those are my 2 cents about the women's teams.
It's really interesting. I had not thought about strikers in that context before, but now I kind of want a supporters group called the Picketers. And like basically they're the ones that make the
Ooh,
signs and like it's like a
I
whole
like
like there could be a
that.
whole thing. If they really lean into that with the branding, I think I would like that better than if it was just like the blanket like strikers, like whatever.
Yeah, and even if you would have on the shield, like, a bunch of, like, fists in the air
Yeah,
or, like, protest signs or, like, something
yeah,
like that, that could be really cool, but
yeah.
and so I think, from my perspective, I was like, "Okay, they are trying to, you know, dig into what our region, what our area is all about." At the same time, I'm like, just stay with like Riverhounds,
Right,
right? Like,
right. Yes,
just come on, just do it. And then like if opposing fans really feel strongly enough to like, make the signs that we're all quote unquote afraid of. I realize, this is
yeah,
primarily an audio platform, but like that people are like, whatever, embrace it. Like, really, are it's 2024. Do we
yeah,
actually care at this point? I think the
yeah,
answer is no. So,
yeah.
again, my 2 cents.
No, I love the 2 cents. One of the other things that Rob had mentioned was just sort of the psychological weight being lifted as soon as we do get our first goal and how that person will basically be like the hero of the season. So it just made me think, if you were to bet money on who scores first and gets us out of the scoring rut, who do you think it's gonna be?
I think now, I believe it was the Vegas game, right, where we got the penalty kick,
Yes.
because it was so late, and I refused to stay up that late. I love the
Yes.
Riverhounds. I've given them a lot of time and money over the years, was not gonna stay up that late. Danny Griffin, right, took that penalty kick.
Yep.
I think he has, I mean, he always seems to have a chip on his shoulder, which I very much appreciate. I think there's something else there. And so I think that would be hopefully like redemptive and something, maybe that might be a little stronger of a word, but like it might be meaningful to him for
Yeah.
him to be that person because he could have been that person. Now it's a penalty kick, so does it actually count? Yeah. I mean, yes, it counts for goals, but
Right.
like does it actually count for the run of play? But I could see him being the one that he's like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes at this point in
Yeah.
time because I let my team down because we essentially were kind of given an opportunity and I lost that to whatever degree. So that would be my guess. What about you? Who do
Yeah.
you think would be the person?
So my thought is that if it's going to be anyone, that we've seen Griffin, we've seen Kenny both try to put the team on their back and try to force the issue and try to get those goals. So I could see it being one of them. Part of me would really love to see it be someone like EJ after he sort of had such a strong game. Was it last week? With his hold up play and really like had a really, really good game. I think to have a striker come in who started the season on the bench to then be able to make an impact and really sort of lift the team in that way. I think that's something that he would be remembered for. And who knows if that would potentially lead to more playing time or whatever. But there's this sense of like, guys, you can trust me. I'm going to get us out of this. Let's keep going. But I do think it's going to take somebody just saying, I'm going to make this happen. Like, I don't necessarily see it being something from the run of play. I mean, it's been like 8 games and we have one goal. So it's not going to like, it feels like it's going to be a moment of magic almost to make it happen. Someone getting fed up enough to just say, like, let's do it. So it will be interesting to sort of see who unleashes that and isn't afraid. I think we've seen a lot of shots that feel safe because you want to make sure you're not missing the target. Um, someone's just going to have to own it and call their own number and sort of see what happens. So yeah, but that all sort of segues into the game this weekend, which is against the Oakland Roots. Oakland's coach Gavin Glinton was just named the USL's Coach of the Month because, of course, he has. Because there are no easy games. Why not? They are a hot team right now. They have 2 wins and a loss in their last 3 games. They lost 2-1 to Monterey, so that's kind of, if you're looking for sort of comparison, we barely lost to Monterey, so that's kind of a good sign for us. They also beat Orange County 2-0 and they beat Louisville 1-0, which Louisville have kind of been on this roller coaster up and down, win loss, win loss. So still a really good team, but not a ton we could take away from that. If you do look at their schedule and sort of how they perform home versus away, they are much better at home than they are away. Away, they have 4 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. So that also sort of plays in our favor that maybe this is a good opportunity for us to steal some points. If you do just sort of look at the stats, and this is something that we've been talking about for a while now, we talked a little bit with Rob about it. The Hounds stats look good. Really, the only thing it's missing is goals. We've let in 5 less goals than they have. We have 2 more clean sheets than they do. They have 12 more yellow cards and 3 more red cards
That
than
is
we do.
bananas.
That is bananas. Yes. We have more shots on target and we have better shooting accuracy than they do. So really the only major difference statistically is goals. We just need to get the goals out of our system and potentially right the ship. So with all of that on the table, Laura Ellen, how do you think this one plays out? Are there specific things that you would like to see or you hope to see? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think some of our last couple away games, we mentioned Las Vegas, have been really late. And
Mhm.
I go to bed very early, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, very
Me
early.
too. I'm old. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like 9:15. I mean, that
Yep.
is one of the benefits of not living close is I can be like, "And the game over, and now I go to sleep,"
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Unless you're just, so, upset about what you're watching that you can't fall asleep. Anyway, but, so I have missed a couple games here and there, but, this most, recent game against Monterey Bay, which I will say, I had encouraged Justin to listen to the preview show with their fan base before the
Mhm.
game, and he hadn't had a chance to do that, and then he caught up on it, and we both just thought, "What a story," right? Like, what a
Yeah. Yeah.
community, what a group. And so I'm like, well, if we're gonna lose that way, great. Let's give it to that group because they seem
Right.
really like, genuinely great human beings. And so anyway, so I was kind of happy with that, which definitely just leads into how I'm thinking about and how my mindset and my frame is about the Riverhounds at this moment. My expectations are like nothing, right? And I say that with like while we lived in Pittsburgh, we were season ticket holders, part of the Steel, we're still Steel Army members, right? We watch every game as long as as much as we can. We support this team and
Mhm.
also, right, have the contextual awareness to understand that some seasons just don't go your way, and it really sucks. And I think we're allowed to say it sucks. And yes, like, not scoring a goal for however many games is a little, it's like, well, what's actually happening here? But at the same time, it's like, that's not why I support this team. The reason I
Right.
support this team is because we lived in Pittsburgh for 9 years and I love the Riverhounds, and right, like, that's why we're here, and we have like our community of people, and that's why. And so I think for me, and it's very funny because Steve, who's on the podcast, and I text a lot during the games, and I'm just like, this is okay. It's all okay. And so going going in going into the game, going into last week's game with Monterey Bay with that mindset of, okay, this is probably not going to go our way. It's going to be really hard. To your point about the conversation with Rob, right? There is just this psychological pressure that exists for these players that no matter what they do, it's always going to be on the back of their minds. And I know Rob said, well, once you get out on the field, it kind of like you just start playing. Yeah, but at the back of your mind, you're like, wait, how many minutes has it been since
Yeah.
we've scored a goal? Like, how long has it been since we've won? So there's like a lot going on there. And so I think for me, going into the Monterey Bay game, I was like, all right, what are we actually going to see? I was really impressed with the game. I
Mhm.
was. Also, again, we're watching the Euros, we're watching the CONCACAF tournament, right? And we cannot compare, and EPL starting, we cannot compare what we see in those games to what we see for the Riverhounds. And
Right.
so, again, with a little bit of this reframe that I forced myself into, now, did I still turn, as soon as they scored a goal last week, did I turn off the game and I didn't watch the rest of it? Yes, of course I did, because I was very upset. But with this reframe, I was really impressed with how well they played, with how many shots they got, with just like their perseverance, because they are still showing up. I think it would
Mhm.
be very easy for them as a team to just throw their hands up and be like, well, whatever. And I mean, honestly, maybe some of those players need to do that so we can give some other players a try. I don't know. I was staying out of those coaching decisions. So I think for me, what I want to see in this game is I want to see them really keep pushing. In previous years, we've had these mental lapses. And so continuing, like, pushing through that mental lapse, staying focused. It's 90 minutes. It's likely going to be warm. It's likely going to be humid. Really kind of pushing past those physical limitations through those mental barriers and just saying, hey, we're here. We're going to show up for every second, every minute of this game and give it our best shot. And something will land eventually. It has to, right?
Yeah.
Probability tells us that eventually it something will land and we will all celebrate and it will all be wonderful. And so I think that's really like that's my mindset going into games moving forward. And I don't anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent, but how do you feel about all this, Mike?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, when we think back to some of the earlier years when we were doing the show, sort of like the Dave Brandt years, we could have stopped doing a show at any point just because we knew we weren't going to win. We knew we weren't going to make the playoffs. It was painful to watch. The playoffs were decided, weeks and weeks before the season was over. Like we had no shot at getting in. And to your point, we support this team because they're our local team. There's that very European pub style, like this is our squad, regardless of what happens, we're going to get behind them. And I think that that's the mentality that we all have, amongst Mongols. I know the Steel Army has. There's a lot of love for the players on the field, and we all just want them to get through this for themselves personally. And I do think that as soon as one comes, that you're going to see them start playing a little bit looser with a little bit more freedom, and it's going to be a sight to see, especially when you look at everything else that's going right. Like you said, they're putting in really good performances. They're getting into good positions. They're, for the most part, we're averaging like a little over 1 goal against per game, which should do it in most cases. So I think as soon as it clicks, it's going to be great. And yeah, of course, we're going to keep watching this team regardless of the score line. So, in terms of this game, I really don't know what else to say beyond that. We could talk about the goalie situation. I don't know if there really is anything to talk about. That's been the hot topic, but Lily seems to want to flow back and forth, between Randolph and Dick and Gabby and whatever. So whoever's in goal, again, the goals against is not really the problem. We got to figure out what's happening up front. So we'll see if we can find that right formula to start putting some goals away against Oakland. Do you have a score prediction for this one, Laura Ellen?
Sure. I will say, hmm. Okay, here it goes. I think that in the stoppage time of the first half, we are going to score a goal. And then in the second half, we are going to score more goals. Now, I have no idea how many goals we're going to let in. And so my my prediction is that we are going to have multiple goals in this game starting in stoppage time of the first half. Uh, and that's where I will go from there.
I like that prediction. I I agree from the standpoint. I think as soon as one goes in, I don't think that this is going to be a game where we score just one. If we score just one and we win, great. But I could see it being 2-1, 3-1 Hounds. If we're looking statistically, it feels like Oakland will likely get at least one. But yeah, it sounds stupid to predict 3-1 for a team that hasn't been able to score in, 8-ish games or whatever it is, 1 goal in 8 games. But as you said, statistically, it's got to happen at some point. It's not happened for so long that the odds are in our favor that it's going to happen in this one. And if it doesn't happen in this one, the odds are in our favor it's going to happen in the next one. Like this isn't like we're a bad team. It's just we've been hit with this bug, and I think that this could be the game where we kick it. I think, and on paper, Oakland is a good team. I think the USL ranked them number 3 overall in their power rankings this week, but there are a number of weaknesses if you look at the stats in terms of they're much better at home than they are away. Maybe we get them into some foul trouble early. Like if you get into their heads and start to play the mental game, if they start getting into card trouble, whatever, that could play to our advantage. But at the end of the day, we just have to put the ball in the back of the net, and I think we do it in this one.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I will also just say I don't want them getting a red card because that is just like not the recipe for success that we
yeah,
need because we do not thrive when the other
yep,
team is down a player. So
yeah,
yeah, I agree. And and the travel from Oakland, it's like, it's all the
yep,
things. So
yep,
yeah, let's do it. We like I think my underlying message and kind of my overall thoughts about all this is, yeah, we all cheer for the Pittsburgh soccer team. And
truth,
and here we are.
truth. That is what we think. Let us know what you think. If you have tickets, make sure that you get down to Highmark Stadium. I have not seen the announcement that the parking lot is full yet. It might already be full, but regardless, make sure you're down there. You're loud. You're supporting the guys, helping to pull them through sort of this drought that we're in. Otherwise, we appreciate everyone for listening. Make sure that you subscribe on your podcast player of choice or over on YouTube. We are putting out a new video every single day on YouTube, whether it is a short or it is a long form type video like this. So go ahead,
Fancy.
subscribe, and it'll show up in your subscription. I know, right? But otherwise, thanks everybody. We will talk to you very, very soon.